The Breakfast Club, bitches.
All right, Charlamagne, please tell me, why was I your donkey of the day?
Well, donkey today for Friday, July 21st goes to the Florida Board of Education. What does your Uncle Shala always say about the great state of Florida? The craziest people in America come from the Bronx and all of Florida, and today is no exception. And those folks is going to remain crazy because the current government they have is going to drive them that way. All right, see, the Florida Board of Education approved a new set of standards for how Black history should be taught in the state's public schools. Would you like to know what their new standards are? Let's go to Fox 35 Orlando for the report, please.
So the Florida Department of Education Board approved several controversial rules for the upcoming school year. One of the biggest changes is to social studies standards for African American history for kindergarten through 12th grade. The board had a task force rewrite the new African American history curriculum. The board feels they created a well-rounded curriculum that provides a depth of knowledge of what African Americans have gone through. But there were many in the meeting that voiced their opposition to the new standards, including Senator Geraldine Thompson, who believes this was an effort but not a comprehensive account of African American history. For example, she believes the Ocoee massacre will not be taught in a way that shares the whole story with both sides.
I think we're shortchanging our students. It's the students who are going to suffer by not knowing the history and therefore not really embracing all of who we are. We can't celebrate progress unless we acknowledge the pain that came about with it.
Very true, sister. If they aren't afraid of the full truth of American history, then how come they just won't tell it? This is the latest nonsense in Florida's debate over Black history. The Education Department already rejected a preliminary pilot version of AP African American Studies courses for high school students, which it claimed lacked educational value. Well, I can tell you what has zero educational value, and that's lies. Okay, telling people that the enslaved developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit, is a white devil damned lie. Slavery wasn't no vocational school. Nobody enrolled in slavery so they could learn a trade, all right? They make slavery sound like it was a welding class, all right? You didn't want to implement the AP African American Studies class because you said it didn't tell the whole truth about American history. Well, these new standards y'all created aren't the truth either. You can't take credit for the strength and methods of survival that slaves learned based off a matter of necessity. They had no choice, all right? Nobody taught them that, all right? First law of nature is self-preservation, all right? They just trying to survive, all right? They gentrified our neighborhoods. Now they gentrifying our past and our history. They really trying to take credit for how resilient we are as people after enslaving us. Could you imagine if, when they were alive, Ike Turner took credit for Tina Turner knowing how to take a punch? How would that sound? Huh? Now, let me give you an example of something they want to teach. You heard it in the news report. Ocoee, Florida. They want to talk about the 1920 Ocoee, Florida massacre. And under the new rules, they require that instruction includes acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans, okay? The massacre is considered the deadliest election day violence in U.S. history. And according to several histories of the incident, it started when Moses Norman, a prominent Black landowner in the community, attempted to cast his ballot and was turned away by white poll workers. That's like the whitewashed version of what really happened. Okay, what happened was a mob of white supremacists murdered at least 50 Black people for attempting to exercise their legal and democratic right to vote. Okay, on November 1st, the day before the election, with their robes and their crosses, the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, paraded through the streets of two Black communities in Ocoee, and they had megaphones, and it was nighttime, and they warned that not a single Negro will be permitted to vote, and if any of them dared to, there would be dire consequences. If somebody walks through your neighborhood the night before an election and tells you that if you vote, there's going to be dire consequences, then the next day, a mob of white supremacists kills 50 Black people for voting. That is premeditated murder, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? All right? When you say acts of violence, all right? When you say acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans, please knock it off. There was no violence committed by African Americans in regards to the Ocoee massacre, unless, of course, you think Black people exercising their right to vote is an act of violence. And if Black people did get violent on that day, it was in self-defense of the white supremacist mob that was trying to kill them. Who the hell gonna stand around and just die? Okay? What these people are doing is trying to remix history. All right, these white people are trying to do what Jermaine Dupri and Diddy have mastered. Definition of the remix. We invented the remix. Whatever it is, those white folks in Florida are doing it. All right, they're trying to do it. All right, that's what they're trying to do right now. So to all the education and civil rights advocates who are pushing back against this, keep fighting. We respect it. We riding with you. But I have to tell y'all, we can't rely on white institutions to teach our kids. Okay, every great black leader we've ever had has told us this, and we must listen. We cannot rely on white institutions to teach our kids black history. We have to self-educate our kids in regards to black history. We have to self-educate each other in regards to black history. Give book recommendations and encourage each other to learn as much about black history as humanly possible. Why would I rely on my open enemy to teach me about me? Florida is showing us what happens when you do that. Please give the Florida Board of Education the biggest hee-haw. You know what's crazy? I've been here all morning talking about Nipsey Hussle's book recommendation list. Because Nipsey left us with a bunch of books that he thinks that we should read to educate ourselves.
Yep.
And I didn't even realize I got my Nipsey Hussle chain and a Nipsey T-shirt on. I mean, I know I wore it this morning, but I didn't know we were going to be having these conversations. Yes.
All right.
Salute to Nipsey, man. Long live Nipsey Hussle.
Absolutely.
Educate yourselves.
All right. Well, thank you for that Donkey Today, and shout out to BET. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Donkey Today is brought to you by the law office of Michael S. Lamonsoff. Don't be a donkey. Dial pound 250 on your cell and say the bull if you've been hurt in a construction accident. That's pound 250 from your cell and say the bull.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.